You are about to enter the Peter Schiff Show.
I want to talk a little bit about Warren Buffett. I like to talk about Warren a lot these days because he's out there. Really, I think he is beating the drums for class warfare. And in fact, he was on CNBC today basically saying that the class warfare that exists today is the rich declaring war on the poor. I mean, the rich aren't taking anything from the poor. I mean, the whole idea that is absolutely nonsense. It's the redistribution in the tax code is going the other way. The taxes that I am paying, right? Not the vast majority of the taxes I'm paying are going to other people. They're going to people that are much poorer than I am, and they're going to transfer payments. There is no class warfare on the war to the rich to the poor because there's no reason for the rich to wage war on the poor. The class warfare has to do with some people trying to take money away from other people. And the rich are not trying to take anything from the poor. It's the poor or through the government that are trying to take things from the rich. Now, that doesn't mean that some of the government programs, like cheap money from the Fed that creates inflation, aren't hurting some poor people at the expense of rich people. They are. But that's not part of the class warfare. In fact, most of the governments that are trying to say we got to tax the rich more are responsible for those policies that benefit people who have leveraged up, who have borrowed money to buy real things. And it hurts the people who are living paycheck to paycheck, who have savings and need to use their wages to buy food and energy. They are being hurt by the big welfare programs that are being financed, the social welfare state that is being financed by inflation and by a printing press. But there is no deliberate war through the tax code where upper income people are trying to get rich by taking money from the poor. In fact, most people who are getting rich are doing it by helping poor and middle class people to live a better life, by providing goods and services and jobs that disproportionately benefit the poor and the middle class. In fact, the way you get rich in this country is not to figure out what other rich people want. I mean, you get a lot richer by marketing to the middle class. Sam Walton became the wealthiest American, and his children are still among the wealthiest Americans by selling products to middle class people. Yes, I guess the guys that own Tiffany's and Saks Fifth Avenue made a lot of money too, but not nearly as much money as Sam Walton because he went after the lower class customer. And the thing is, there's a lot more of them. And so if you can really find ways to satisfy the demands of the lower class and middle class, you can make a lot more money just figuring out what the ultra rich want to do with their money. But again, Warren Buffett on television, one of the things he talked about with Becky Quick, and I guess he was on because she just got back from her maternity leave. But one of the things he said is that, well, even if the government raised his taxes, he said, look, I paid, $7-8 million in taxes last year. And if the government raised my taxes $3 or $4 million or $5 million, it really wouldn't change much. Well, that's probably true because the amount of money he pays in taxes at the personal level is trivial. He pays billions of dollars a year through his company, Berkshire Hathaway. That's where the real money is. The only reason that a few $1 million would be trivial to Warren Buffett is because he's earning billions and he's being taxed on his billions through Berkshire Hathaway. And in fact, when Becky Quick asked him if he thought that corporate tax rates should be raised, he said no. He doesn't want corporate taxes to go up because that's where all his money is. He only wants personal taxes to go up because he doesn't earn any money on the personal level because he chooses to pay himself just $100,000 a year. Now, if Warren Buffett's argument, though, the argument that he is making is that if the rich pay more in taxes, it's not going to hurt the economy. That is pure nonsense. What does Warren Buffett think the rich are doing with the money they don't pay in taxes? He knows they're not spending it on consumer goods. They're investing it. That's how economies grow, because if they grow based on the money we don't spend. But if the government says we're going to take a lot of the money that the rich don't spend, well, then the rich can't invest as much. So you don't have as much economic growth. You don't have as much capital investment. You don't create the products. You don't produce the jobs. That's what happens. I mean, does Warren Buffett really believe that sending money to the government is better than leaving it in the hands of the productive entrepreneurs who earned it? Does he really believe in socialism? If so, then just give the government all the money. If that's the case, just let them take all the money and we're all going to be better off. Anyway, I've got one bit of sound from Warren Buffett talking about higher tax rates We're going to have to play that when we get back, and then I'm going to take more of your calls. And I'm going to play this sound from Warren Buffett today on CNBC, where he basically admits, although he doesn't come right out and say it, that higher tax rates aren't even going to affect him because obviously he pays his taxes through capital gains and dividends, and what he doesn't discuss is he pays his taxes as a shareholder of Berkshire Hathaway. But let me play this sound, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about it. It's cut number 3.
If we were to go to 90% marginal rates on ordinary income, would that change your 17% tax rate that's been so publicized? If just ordinary income went up to 90%, would that change yours at all from 17?
I think it would, but it wouldn't change it dramatically. But I'm not 100%. I'd want to make the calculation. It wouldn't. It certainly, if you left dividends and capital gains at 15%,
then it would.
I don't think it would change it. No,
Okay.
What would change my rate, and what I advocate, what would change my rate is a minimum rate on incomes of $1 million and over, on taxable income, not adjusted gross income, but taxable income.
Yeah, you know, what would change his rate is if he paid himself a salary, which he does not do. But I will explain to you why Warren Buffett chooses not to pay himself a salary, apart from the fact he doesn't want to pay the taxes. Berkshire Hathaway trades at a market multiple of 20 times earnings. And Warren Buffett owns 37% of Berkshire Hathaway. So every dollar that he pays himself in salary reduces the value of Berkshire Hathaway by 20 times that dollar, because it reduces the earnings. And since you have a 20 multiple, by not paying himself a salary, the price of Berkshire Hathaway is a lot higher, the value of Berkshire Hathaway's shares. So if he were to pay himself, let's say, $100 million in salary, the value of Berkshire Hathaway stock would be reduced if he paid himself $100 million in salary a year, he would reduce the value of Berkshire Hathaway stock by $2 billion. Now, and Warren Buffett owns 37% of that. So it would reduce his share by $740 million. So in other words, if Warren Buffett pays himself $100 million in salary, he reduces his net worth by $740 million, which is why he doesn't do it. Now, what Warren Buffett could do is he can go into the market and sell some of his stock and get his income through the sale of appreciated Berkshire Hathaway stock, and then just pay the 15% tax rate on his income, because he was able to convert his income to capital gains by selling stock. But this is an action that Warren Buffett chooses. He uses the tax code to his advantage to minimize his taxes. And then he comes out and says, he cries about the fact that he's not paying enough taxes, and his whining about it is being used as an excuse to raise taxes on other people that don't have that choice. I don't have that choice. I don't run a publicly traded company. I got to pay that 35% tax plus the 3% tax plus the state taxes. I don't have the mechanism to avoid it like Warren Buffett does. And since he's using all these loopholes to minimize his taxes, it really annoys me when he cries about the fact that he feels he's being coddled. I mean, one thing I agree with Warren Buffett about is the tax on carried interest. I think that we should treat carried interest the same as all other income. But apart from that, he's doing a disservice. And I think I've spoken too much time because I wanted to get some callers. We'll see if we have time. Jim.